we're gonna put the story somewhere in the West. So of course, Vegas. I mean, what is more iconic when you think of crazy things that you could do in the West?
I think that was really the inspiration for the story, in a lot of ways, was looking back at the history of Vegas.
We really think of it as a side story. In a lot of ways, we're revisiting stuff from the original 2 games, but it stands on its own.
The first thing our creative lead and our project director did was they sat down and they sort of examined what sort of themes they wanted to explore in New Vegas.
Every Fallout game pretty much starts with war. War never changes. And the idea behind that is really that humanity has this unending appetite for killing each other.
Thematically, if you're going to do a game about Vegas, you have to deal with the theme of greed. And so that's something that kind of suffuses the game.
We've tried to do a lot of reversals with the title. So sometimes we're going to show you why war is absolutely necessary.
Fallout New Vegas is a post-apocalyptic role-playing game. It's set a couple of hundred years after a cataclysmic nuclear war between the US and China. And it takes place at a time when the city of New Vegas is actually being rebuilt.
What ties the story in is the themes of Fallout. It's always centered around water. Where are people getting water? And in case you know, there's a big area right around Vegas that has a lot to do with water.
Hoover Dam plays a massive role in the game. Hoover Dam is like the pot of gold that everybody is fighting over, because in this post-apocalyptic age, to have something that can produce electricity and also water is worth, you know, everything.
Fallout 3 starts with you being born, and you're a baby, and you go through your young adulthood until you leave the vault. In New Vegas, we wanted to say you start the game in a very Vegas sort of cliche style almost. You are shot in the head and dropped in a shallow grave, so it starts with essentially your would-be death.
After you're shot and left for dead in a grave, you know, you might have some desire to go see what the whole murdering business was about and why he wanted you dead in the first place.
In the course of trying to resolve that one conflict, you get pulled into larger events. So in this case, you're trying to find the people that killed you and what they were trying to get from you. In this case, it was a package you were carrying. So, of course, as you go around, you find out that what you were carrying is centrally tied into this major conflict in the area between New California Republic and Caesar's Legion and Mr. House, who's the guy that sort of runs the strip in New Vegas. Player freedom is very important in the Fallout series, and when we allow the player to basically have a choice in what they do and how they do it, by leaving the plot open in a way that basically they're just learning what's going on in the world, it gives them a lot more freedom in how they want to learn that information.
The leader was a New Vegas type. Typical city boy. He had a bunch of great cons with him, probably hired guns.
A lot of the story that comes out of a Fallout game is through the player's own experiences. What you want to do is get them a lot of hooks to adventure with and sort of bounce their own ideas off of and their own experiences.
Like a lot of role-playing games, but I would say even more with Fallout, it's about choice. You know, do I want to be the nice guy? Do I want to be the bastard?
I mean, they can go through the game just blowing everyone away at a moment's notice. They can level whole towns. They can kill everyone all the way up to the very end of the game.
And we also want to make it possible for those that want to be very pacifistic and more speech-oriented and try to be a good and all-around good person.
They can just leave the story, go off into the desert, go into some crazy vault, come out, just pick it up again. They can shortcut parts of the story. Really, I said, it has to start like this, and it has to end with some big conflict between humans about very human concerns. But where you go along the way is sort of what we've been defining over the course of the development process.
The other thing about the Fallout quote-unquote story is what you're trying to do is just make sure that the characters you present in those environments, you want to give them a lot of depth. You want to give them a lot of purpose.
There are too many characters for me to count how many we're introducing.
This game is not, it's set in the future, but it's set in an alternate future. So we can take a lot of inspirational sort of figures from Vegas history and use them as sort of ideas for new characters or main antagonists. So one of the major characters, Benny, is sort of like, if you look at his sort of visual look, he's kind of inspired a little bit by Bugsy Siegel.
Ring-a-ding, baby, ta-ta.
We have a kind of enigmatic overlord of New Vegas named Mr. House, who is patterned after the historical Howard Hughes.
Now, because of your carelessness, Benny has fled the strip.
Caesar is the head of this rather frightening faction called Caesar's Legion that's looking to conquer this region.
I want Mr. House knocked out of the game. A quick 1-2 punch.
These bizarre characters and their sort of twisted things that they do, it's a really big part of the setting, and it's important that Even though we have these terrible situations that people are in, they're punctuated by these moments of bizarre humor.
Please don't do no harm to me, mister. At least the way it's not my face. All I got left is my rugged good looks.
Because the people you meet at different points in the game can actually join you as companions and actually fight alongside you, that sort of gave us a really strong opportunity to have them reinforce the story.
People are really going to enjoy our companions. Raul is very distinctive. He's a ghoul that has been traveling up from Mexico for like hundreds of years, basically, and just living in the desert. And so he has all these crazy stories to tell and really interesting personality.
I'm not much use besides being a portable encyclopedia, really. I guess you could use me as a packed Brahmin.
People really enjoy being part of certain factions in games, participating in the faction politics, and using their influence within an organization to sort of change the game world.
You have these large factions that you're really going up against with very different desires. Like one is just, I just want to take over the world. One is, I want Vegas to survive and me always on top.
They can side with the New California Republic in the war effort. They can side with Caesar's Legion. They can choose to support Vegas, or my personal favorite is that you sort of blaze your own destiny, and depending on the alliances you form with these factions, that sort of determines the future and fate of the world.
The environment is genuinely reacting to what you do as the player. You have a pretty extraordinary amount of control over the outcome of the game.